So there's this implicit construct of a cosmos that is a binary and number system, um, because so the deterministic aspect of it. So when you're looking at this and you remove the principles, then you're looking at it as a Turing machine or a Zuse machine that came before. I posted up a great article by Jason Giorgiani, Riza Giorgiani, that gets into this. Particularly if you want to look up the Z1, the Z2, and the Z3 computational systems that were developed in the 1930s before Turing even came out with his. Fascinating article. I think I made it about halfway through, but I'll be reading that to its entirety, and I'll be going in and probably looking at it as a reference guide, because it's talking about the most pivotal factor of agency, free will, determinism, and the fact that here we are trying to appeal to a God, right, that has these principles, right, and that expects you to live up to these higher tier cosmic principles, right? And then when you look at the Hermetic seven laws of the Hermetic seven Hermetic laws, when you start to see things in the rationale of the conjecture that if we're dealing with a computational system, or even more so if we're dealing with kind of a Boltzmann brain, right? Like it's a little scary to think that a brain would develop prior to the completion of a universe, right? Or even a cosmos for that matter, and that it would take so long for the computational system, like to posit anything new, right? Really new, other dimensional, it would require so much energy, and therefore there would be a requirement that that energy supports a space, and whether that space, that place, is eradicated and the energy is reappropriated, it's following certain laws that dictate toward a zero mechanism where you have a -1 and a plus one, right? So it's trying to, in other words, what you hail as God may be a computational system that doesn't mind using less energy. So when you start to rail against the machine and you're thinking about the fact that there is no justice, there's no universal justice, this is what brought me to my knees, literally. I couldn't deal with it, which is I started to study neuro-linguistic programming years ago. And I came to this place where I couldn't believe how easily and readily people wanted to be controlled. Like once you fully utilized. So part of this is suggestion, but the other aspect is how you appear to them. They're looking at your eyes. They're aware of your eye gestures, your eye movements, your pronouncing of specific words, a regression back to their data set, the experiences they've had, the trials that they've gone through. And there's nothing more impacting than appealing to one's trauma, because you have a time machine right in front of you, to where if you do this right, which is inherently wrong, you will have somebody who turns to utter putty in front of you. And after I had successfully done this, I just couldn't do it anymore, because I realized this is what you have to do. This is how you communicate with people. It's like horse whispering. It's so boring and easy, but it's absolutely putting you in this place where you're standing in a place of God, really, because you're telling people what to do. I remember using this and just selling. I was working for this gym, and I just automatically sell these packages. And then I started to even train people on how neurolinguistic programming worked and how you identify yourself with. I feel bad because I'm sure that those people went off in their lives and thought, this is crazy. This really works. Like I did it with an audience, and even more so, this is what actors know, is that more eyes upon you, more energy is placed upon you as an audience is watching you, that you are now performing for multiple data sets, right? So, and these data sets all function back to symbols or sigils that are functional operators onto themselves, right? So you have operations that are being dictated to, and this is what gets into sigils and sigil magic, is that when the conviction that somebody comes at a ritual with, once you find this out, that it's that even our blood, our hearts, our nervous systems, if the universe is designed as a computational data set and it's trying to utilize the laws of thermodynamics, not that there isn't more energy available, but it's being lazy and saying that if you want to off yourself, there's another person over here trying to get pregnant, and even though they're drug addicts, I'm not a moral god. I'm just a computational system. If you want to off yourself, this person over here can mimetically take over your tasks or duties. But I know that it works much more specific to torsion field energy, ley lines, zodiacal lines, calendric cycles. It's very specific all the way down into personality types, blood types, and all these things in a computational data set identify a certain number within a hashtag that is your personal identity. So when you begin to demand more from the system, i.e. principles, and then you begin to demand the highest form of principles, because you are not just an afferent signal response. You are not merely just energy being parlayed, relayed, and delayed through a computational system on a motherboard. You actually have the ability to be a full-blown computational system yourself, because the crazy aspect of this is that we were designed as a higher tier. We were designed as an aftermarket or an aftermarket effect, because the computational system was not sufficient and enough to itself. So in order for it to add on to itself, it had to create smaller portions of intricate data sets that would then have to take on exactly what we're taking on, which is we're stuck in this parlay, relay, delay mechanism of power and control. We have the ability to amass massive amounts of power, but then in that, we have to understand that there's almost only so much energy allowed within a system, right? A spherical body, so that you are now effectively killing off. So you saw this with the SS, you saw this with the Nazis and with Hitler. That's why people who are being ignorant about Trump is aware of this. He knows it. In fact, he's stayed very blindsided and ignorant on many levels, where he has, like I say, he has no, there's no prominence in him. There's no provision, right? There's no real integrity, right? What you have is somebody who doesn't express his love for song, art, poetry, not even acting. You know, he's on television and, you know, has been for many years, and he's only played himself. He'd be a terrible actor, right? But he was able to appeal to people in a business transactional sort of way. And we had been rallied toward, like herded toward this state of mind that became transactional, right? Because the universe, the computational system, has an easier time dealing with already proficient number values that it can select how much information is going to be. So when you're demanding more, you're pissing off the computational system. Like when you're demanding to exist and live at a higher tier and not work with what's there. This is why stoicism abounds, right? Why Christianity is a form of stoicism. It wants you to subtly take over because it doesn't want to just look at you because it's aware of all the phenomenon. So that answers the question why there's so much dead space, or why there's so much space here, is the fact that you need this much space when you have this much data streaming about, right? Like you're looking at an atom, or you're looking at a sun, and you're not taking into consideration the aura and the plasma that is in effect taking place. Like we somehow fail to see that over and over again. Or the actual energy that's in an atom has been equated to a dime sitting at the edge of a football field, and then you need to take that into a circuitous radiation and even a spherical representation and see that that is how much energy. So the universe is that that space is required for this energy to take place, right? For the computational set to take place. So in effect, you could say that we are a quantum computer. We are the hub in this area of the cosmos of a computational system.